Before the pavilion, the atmosphere was tense and eerie. The prominent figures from the various factions of the Celestial Wind Sea region were utterly silent. Among them, the powerhouses of the Wei clan looked particularly pale, with Wei Zhan trembling visibly. His gaze toward Lindong was filled with terror. He could never have imagined that the once obscure youth had risen to such terrifying heights. With Lindong's current strength, he could likely obliterate the entire Wei clan with a mere wave of his hand. However, Lindong only glanced at him briefly, showing no intention of seeking trouble. When one's strength reached such an apex, the provocations of insignificant ants naturally ceased to provoke any reaction. "Heh, young Master Lindong, your reputation precedes you," said Gu Tong, the patriarch of the Gu clan, finally breaking the silence. Suppressing the turmoil in his heart, he offered Lindong a warm smile. Seeing Lindong greet the two Gu clan women earlier, Gu Tong felt no displeasure. On the contrary, he was overjoyed. Regardless of the circumstances, as long as Lindong harbored no hostility toward the Gu clan, it was the best outcome. As the patriarch of the Gu clan, Gu Tong was well aware of what a pinnacle reincarnation stage expert represented. Although Martial Gathering Island was currently teeming with powerhouses, gathering nearly 90% of the Celestial Wind Sea region's elite, they were insignificant in the eyes of such a being. "This is my grandfather, Gu Tong, patriarch of the Gu clan," Gu Mingqi introduced softly. "Greetings to the Gu patriarch." Lindong cupped his fists and smiled politely. He held some goodwill toward the Gu clan, as they had helped him in the past, even if he did not personally know Gu Tong. Hearing this, Gu Tong hastily returned the courtesy. Sensing the envious gazes from those around him, he straightened his back slightly. Establishing ties with such a powerful figure was a great honor for the Gu clan. "Lindong, why are you here? Martial Gathering Island is a dangerous place right now," Gu Yin couldn't help but ask. "Given the current state of the island, who would willingly come here?" "I was asked to protect the one inside the tower," Lindong replied with a smile, pointing toward the distant Primordial Wilderness Tower. Everyone was stunned. The one inside the tower? Could it be the senior responsible for the energy barrier? Gu Mingqi and Gu Yin exchanged puzzled looks, but refrained from asking further. They merely nodded, their beautiful eyes turning to Lindong's companions, Ying Huan and Qing Tan. Both women were strikingly attractive. One exuded an icy elegance, the other a charming playfulness. Their extraordinary temperaments made them stand out. "This is Ying Huan, our junior sister from the Dao sect, and this is my younger sister, Qing Tan," Lindong introduced them with a smile, noticing the women's curious gazes. Ying Huan and Qing Tan returned polite smiles. Ying Huan's ice-blue eyes then darted to Lindong, carrying an enigmatic expression as if to say, "Your cultivation journey seems quite fortuitous in more ways than one." Sensing her gaze, Lindong let out an awkward laugh and shifted his focus to the leaders of the various factions assembled before the pavilion. "You all know the current situation on Martial Gathering Island. If you value your lives, follow my instructions. Any objections?" The crowd remained silent, fully aware of the overwhelming alien demon forces surrounding the island. Lindong's plan to organize their efforts could very well be their best chance for survival. Lindong's gaze swept over them, the pressure of his immense aura palpable. Even the masters of the three great cave heavens dared not voice any dissent. "Gu Patriarch, count the number of people on the island. Each faction is to organize their forces into formations. If the barrier is breached, fight with everything you've got," Lindong commanded. His tone turned cold as he added, "The stronger alien demons will be my responsibility, but the rest is up to you. If anyone tries to undermine this effort, I'll deal with them before the demons do." Hearing this final statement, everyone shuddered, fully grasping the fact that the man before them was no saint. Young Master Lindong is right. This concerns our survival. We dare not hold back. The master of the celestial wind cave heaven promptly agreed. Huan, Qing Tan, stay here and help oversee things," Lindong said, glancing at his companions. While the Gu clan was among the top 5 factions, they were not the strongest in the Celestial Wind Sea region. Having reinforcements would ensure others wouldn't dare challenge them. The two women nodded in agreement. Qing Tan, the dark sacred hall master, cast a calm yet commanding glance around. This kind of task was second nature to her. With everything settled, Lin Dong wasted no time. His figure flickered with silver light, and he appeared before the Primordial Wilderness Tower. The crowd was a bit surprised to see him successfully reach the topmost level of the Primordial Wilderness Tower, but nobody dared to comment further. "Everyone, please organize your troops. This scattered group looks rather unsightly," someone said. When Qing Tan saw Lin Dong enter the Primordial Wilderness Tower, her charming face gradually became composed. With a slight movement of her delicate hand, a massive dark sacred scythe appeared. She sliced it through the air, and a gigantic spatial rift emerged in the sky, causing everyone to gasp in shock. They hadn't expected such overwhelming power from someone who appeared to be a delicate, cute girl. "Hurry up, everyone. I don't have a lot of patience, and if I accidentally sweep you off the island, Brother Lin Dong will blame me," Qing Tan said lazily, cradling the dark sacred scythe. "Yes, yes." Hearing the veiled threat in Qing Tan's voice, the heads of the various factions in the Celestial Wind Sea region broke out in a cold sweat and immediately scrambled to organize their forces. They were terrified of provoking this young lady, who changed her demeanor the moment Lin Dong left. Ng Huan observed the commotion on the island without much emotion, her icy blue eyes fixed on the Primordial Wilderness Tower. She murmured to herself, "The Lord of the Primordial Wilderness." As Lin Dong entered the topmost level of the Primordial Wilderness Tower, a vast sea of violet gold energy spread before him. This energy was powerful and turbulent, filling every corner of the space. Looking at the ocean of violet gold energy, Lin Dong smiled slightly. During his earlier visit, he had only absorbed a slight amount of the energy that leaked from there, which had benefited him greatly. But now, with his current perspective, this energy seemed less tempting. His gaze swept over the violet gold space before he quickly moved toward the center. There, he sensed the gathering of an ancient and formidable aura. Within minutes, Lin Dong stopped, looking on curiously. Ahead, brilliant violet gold light erupted, centered around a colossal figure about 1,000 feet tall, seated cross-legged. The oceanic violet gold energy continuously poured into its body with each breath. The giant's body was a violet gold color, its skin ruggedly textured. Yet, beneath that roughness lay an indescribable strength. Clearly, this violet gold giant was one of the 8 ancient lords, the lord of the Primordial Wilderness, known for having the strongest physical form in the world. Lord of the Primordial Wilderness. Lin Dong floated in front of the violet gold giant, his form as insignificant as an ant in comparison. He could sense the giant's extraordinary physical power, which caused his primordial dragon bones to reverberate, as if eager to compete with it. Majestic violet gold light surged from the giant's body, and its closed eyes slowly opened, casting beams of violet gold light that enveloped Lin Dong. With its gaze locked on Lin Dong, a powerful pressure also descended upon him. Roar! An earth-shaking dragon roar erupted from within Lin Dong, countering the pressure. A brilliant violet gold radiance burst from his body, transforming into a massive violet gold dragon behind him. Primordial dragon bones? Observing the violet gold dragon, the giant finally spoke, its voice thundering like a storm. It caused the whole space to tremble. "I am Lin Dong. Greetings to the Lord of the Primordial Wilderness," Lin Dong said loudly, clasping his fists. "So, you are Lin Dong? The Flame Lord has mentioned you, and indeed, you are somewhat unique." The Lord of the Primordial Wilderness smiled. His face seemed honest, but the sharpness in his violet gold eyes undermined this appearance thoroughly. Lin Dong nodded slightly. He could sense the Lord's formidable power, though he noticed his aura was somewhat sluggish, indicating he hadn't fully recovered. "This time, I must trouble you. My injuries are at a crucial stage. In 5 days, I can fully recover, but the demon prison folks won't let me recover easily. I hope you can guard this island during that time." The Lord also clasped his fists in a gesture of request. "Since I was entrusted by the Flame Lord, I will do my utmost to protect it," Lin Dong replied with a nod. "Originally, the demon prison didn't detect me. But as my injuries heal, my aura strengthens, allowing them to locate my resting place. The Lord paused, then suddenly asked, "Is little junior sister also here?" I sensed her presence. The Lord of the Primordial Wilderness smiled faintly, casting a peculiar glance at Lin Dong, but refrained from saying more. Clearly, he was aware of the relationship between Lin Dong and Xun'er. This time, a demon king will undoubtedly appear. Can you handle it? Lin Dong smiled slightly and nodded. With his current strength, as long as the opponent wasn't a demon king who had survived 3 reincarnation tribulations, he felt no fear. In that case, I leave it to you. Thank you for guarding us. The Lord of the Primordial Wilderness fixed his gaze on Lin Dong before speaking meaningfully. I'm also curious to see just how capable the one my junior sister values truly is. After a brief conversation with the Lord of the Primordial Wilderness, Lin Dong did not linger further within the Primordial Wilderness Tower. He was in a crucial stage of recovery and needed a quieter environment. Leaving the tower, Lin Dong noticed a commotion spreading across the island. Figures swarmed like locusts, darting to and fro, accompanied by sharp commands. Under these orders, the initially chaotic scene on the island gradually became orderly. Various factions began gathering, making the situation far more manageable than before. In the sky, Qingtan stood lazily, holding the dark sacred scythe. Her gaze swept over the turmoil below. From time to time, the blade in her hand casually flicked, unleashing terrifying gales that roared downwards. These gusts struck near hesitant groups, splitting the ground apart and terrifying them into immediate compliance. None dared make any further moves, lest the deadly scythe accidentally fell upon them. That girl. Seeing this, Lin Dong chuckled inwardly. Qingtan had become quite formidable. She had managed the massive dark palace with precision and discipline. Though the martial gathering island was currently in disarray, it was clear she could handle it. Big brother Lin Dong. Qingtan spotted Lin Dong emerging from the Primordial Wilderness Tower. A sweet smile lit her face as she quickly approached, stowing away the dark sacred scythe. Her cheerful demeanor bore no trace of her earlier cold authority, leaving the subdued powerhouses below dumbfounded. Lin Dong smiled at Qingtan, and together they descended toward a pavilion. The leaders of the Celestial Windsea region quickly approached them. "Did you meet the Lord of the Primordial Wilderness?" Xun'er, seated gracefully, her ice-blue eyes shining, asked softly. "Yes," Lin Dong nodded. "It seems we'll need to hold this martial gathering island for 5 days. The Lord of the Primordial Wilderness? Brother Lin Dong, what's going on?" Gutong, the patriarch of the Gu clan, couldn't resist asking in confusion. The one within the Primordial Wilderness Tower is none other than the Lord of the Primordial Wilderness, one of the 8 ancient lords. As long as we hold this place for 5 days, he will fully recover, and the crisis will resolve itself, Lin Dong explained with a faint smile. With the Lord of the Primordial Wilderness about to emerge, there was no need for secrecy. The 8 ancient lords. Some looked bewildered at his words, while others were visibly shaken, clearly aware of this ancient, pinnacle existence. To think that such a mighty figure resided within the Primordial Wilderness Tower. "Everyone," Lin Dong addressed the crowd, his gaze sweeping over them. "Martial Gathering Island is surrounded, and for these 5 days, we're all in the same boat. I hope we can work together to weather this. Otherwise, none of us may escape." "Yes." Seeing his determined expression, the group responded with a hint of awe. Trapped on the island, they had been on the brink of despair. Now, Lin Dong's appearance reignited their hope, and they were willing to give their all. Lin Dong waved them away, and as the group dispersed, only the 3 of them remained in the pavilion. Lin Dong exhaled lightly, but couldn't hide the solemn look in his eyes. "What's wrong?" Xun'er asked, noticing his expression. "These 5 days won't be easy," Lin Dong replied, his tone heavy. He had a premonition that things wouldn't go smoothly. The Lord of the Primordial Wilderness was on the verge of regaining his peak strength. The demon prison had gone to great lengths to keep the Thunder Lord and the Dark Lord occupied, and they wouldn't easily relinquish this opportunity. "If they come, we'll meet them head-on," Xun'er said calmly. "Even if the demon prison can tie up the Thunder Lord and the others, they'll have to deploy their top combat strength to do so. that won't leave them much to deal with us. Lin Dong nodded slightly. Indeed, while the demon prison's strength was overwhelming, keeping the Thunder Lord and his peers occupied required their finest fighters. Lin Dong raised his head, his gaze fixed on the deep yellow energy barrier enveloping the island. He exhaled deeply. No matter what, since he had promised them, he was determined to ensure the Lord of the Primordial Wilderness's safety. Failing to do so would only invite the contempt of these ancient lords. As Lin Dong and his group arrived at Martial Gathering Island, the previously despairing atmosphere on the island lifted slightly. Regardless of the circumstances, the presence of a peak reincarnation stage expert inspired awe in many. To them, having such a figure guarding the island brought a glimmer of hope. With hope rising, all forces on the island were swiftly mobilized and reorganized into battle formations. After a day's drills, they began to display some semblance of fighting capability, a stark improvement from their previous disorganized state. While morale consolidated on the island, the attacks from the alien demons outside grew increasingly ferocious. The surging demonic aura crashed against the deep yellow energy barrier, causing it to ripple violently. This sight left many drenched in cold sweat, knowing that once the barrier broke, a brutal and bloody battle would inevitably ensue. Time crawled by in this tense waiting, dragging on painfully slow for the island's defenders. For the first time, they felt how agonizingly long 5 days could be. As time dragged into the 4th day, the atmosphere on the island became even more oppressive. The protective energy barrier in the sky had thinned to a fragile layer. On a rocky peak in the center of the island, Lin Dong sat silently in meditation. His gaze lingered on the barrier above, his dark eyes sharp and intense. Then, his focus shifted to the dense demonic clouds outside the island, where a king from the demon prison might be hiding. As Lin Dong stared into the ominous clouds, a chill mixed with a faint fragrance drifted by. He turned slightly to seeing Huan approaching and sitting beside him. Her slender waist aroused a protective instinct in him. Still worried? Huan asked with a faint smile. Lin Dong chuckled and shook his head, his gaze lingering on her beautiful face. This earned him a playful glare as she cupped her cheeks with her hands. Why are you staring at me like that? Lin Dong thought for a moment before saying, I don't know why, but you remind me of how you used to be. At some point, the icy demeanor that had always shrouded her face had softened, replaced by occasional smiles. While she wasn't as lively as she had been, there was now a warmth to her. Really? Huan bit her lip and looked at him. Do you prefer how I used to be, or how I am now? No saying you like both, she added, pouting. Lin Dong smiled, reaching out to stroke her icy blue hair. A cool sensation seeped into his palm as he fell silent for a moment. Back in the Chaos Demon Sea, I endured countless life and death struggles. Back then, all I wished for was to see you smile like you used to. Huan gazed at him, her smile radiant. It was a smile of breathtaking beauty. Then, gently, she rested her head on his shoulder. As Lin Dong savored the feeling of her leaning on him, as if he were her entire world, a droplet of ice fell onto his arm. Alarmed, he looked down to see tears welling in her reddened eyes, freezing and falling as icy droplets. What's wrong? Lin Dong asked hurriedly. Huan shook her head, her icy eyes meeting his. In a soft voice, she said, If one day I act willfully, promise me you won't be angry. Lin Dong froze, unsure of her meaning. I'm teasing you, she said with a light laugh before he could ask further. Stretching her graceful figure, she presented a captivating silhouette, then turned to him. It's been so long since I played for you. Let me play a tune. Raising her delicate hands, blue light gathered, and a zither of ice materialized. Her slender fingers danced across the strings, and the melody began to flow. The poignant and serene music floated across the island, easing the tension that had gripped everyone. Countless gazes turned toward the source of the sound, where they saw her on the rocky peak. Lin Dong gazed at Huan, who at this moment bore a radiant smile on her face. For some reason, however, the sight caused a faint twinge in his heart. Who? He took a deep breath, his hands slowly clenching into fists. If he couldn't protect the things he wished to protect, then what was the point of all his arduous cultivation? Buzz. Buzz. Suddenly, an unusual sound emanated from the sky, shattering the enchanting melody of the zither. Countless gazes were drawn upwards, and their bodies tensed as they noticed cracks slowly spreading across the massive energy barrier in the heavens. Lin Dong stood up, a sharp glint forming in his dark eyes. A terrifying aura surged forth, rippling outward like a tempest. It was finally happening. The cracks on the immense amber energy barrier above stretched further, the faint sound of splitting crystal reverberating throughout Marshall Gathering Island, plunging it into an eerie silence. Cold sweat trickled down the foreheads of countless individuals. Lin Dong rose, his gaze icy as he stared at the crumbling barrier. Taking a deep breath, he waved his sleeve, and a beam of light shot forth, transforming midair into the Xintian Palace. The instant Xintian Palace appeared, a resonant hum erupted as divine relics surged forth like a tide, streaking toward the island's many powerful practitioners. These relics were shrouded in a faint, gentle white glow, the power of the ancestral stone, capable of amplifying damage against the alien demons. Everyone, should we survive this calamity, these divine relics will be yours. Lin Dong's voice resounded across the island, firm and unyielding. An uproar immediately erupted among the practitioners. Their eyes blazed with fervor as they eagerly caught the incoming relics, their gazes burning as though trying to melt them. To Lin Dong, these divine relics were of little significance. Yet to these people, they were treasures, ones they would struggle to obtain even after exhausting all means. Now, Lin Dong had handed them out so generously. We will defend Marshall Gathering Island to the death. Clutching the relics, the practitioners felt their confidence soar. Their gazes turned fanatical as they looked at Lin Dong, their deafening cries echoing incessantly. Satisfied with the morale, Lin Dong gave a slight nod. He then turned to Ing Huan. If powerful enemies appear later, I'll handle them first. You and Qingtan will deal with the other alien demon elites. Though Ing Huan was now quite powerful, Lin Dong preferred she use her abilities sparingly. Ing Huan nodded slightly, understanding his concerns without hesitation. Above them, the energy barrier trembled violently. In the skies, countless practitioners hovered in place, primordial energy surging from their bodies. The fear in their eyes gradually subsided under Lin Dong's composed demeanor, replaced with a savage determination. Having been relentlessly pursued by the alien demons, their rage had long since reached its peak. Buzz. Buzz. The barrier quaked faster, the cracks expanding until a faint snapping sound was heard. Under the overwhelming pressure of the demonic aura, the entire barrier shattered into countless fragments. As the barrier collapsed, the world darkened instantly. The monstrous demonic aura that had encircled the island for so long revealed its sinister form. Amidst piercing wails, swarms of alien demons emerged like locusts, hurtling toward Marshall Gathering Island. Lin Dong's expression remained indifferent as he watched the overwhelming assault. Clenching his hand, he summoned a storm of thunderclouds in the sky. Bolts of lightning roared downward, tearing into the demonic clouds with devastating force. Boom, boom. Thunderous explosions rang out as countless alien demons shrieked in agony, their bodies charred and smoking as they plummeted to the ground. Attack! The practitioners, invigorated by Lin Dong's display of might, let out a thunderous roar. Their primordial energy surged forth in unison, forming a wave of assaults that collided fiercely with the advancing alien demons. Boom, boom, boom. The two sides clashed head-on, magic and energy intertwining in a devastating storm. The battlefield instantly devolved into chaos, with shattered limbs and debris flying in all directions. Alien demons were obliterated one after another, their bodies dissipating into voids under the torrent of energy. Despite the ferocity of the assault, Marshall Gathering Island held firm, its defenses unyielding. The alien demons were kept at bay, unable to penetrate the island's perimeter. Lin Dong surveyed the brutal battlefield, exhaling deeply before turning his gaze to the deepest part of the demonic clouds. Huan and Qingtan also appeared behind Lin Dong, their eyes fixed on the depths of the demon cloud. Compared to the ordinary alien demons, the ones about to show themselves next were the truly troublesome ones. The demon cloud swirled, and at some point, the intensity of the alien demon's attacks seemed to slow. Soon after, the crowd saw a terrifying surge of demonic energy gather above the island, forming a vortex. As the vortex spun, it seemed to tear apart the very fabric of space. Within the vortex of demonic energy, faint sounds of footsteps could be heard. Several dark figures appeared to move from a distance, slowly stepping out of the swirling demonic energy. As they emerged into the open, everyone could feel the primordial energy in the air suddenly boiling as if it had been stirred up. "Heh, Lin Dong, it seems you're everywhere," said the leader of the 6 paths of demonic shadows, stepping on the demonic energy. His cold eyes turned toward Lin Dong, who stood above the island, as a faint, mocking laugh escaped his lips. Lin Dong's gaze immediately locked onto the 6 paths of demonic shadows. The leader, in particular, looked very familiar. He was none other than the 7th king, whom Lin Dong had fought against in the northern mysterious region. "We really are destined to cross paths again," Lin Dong remarked with a faint smile. He had been in a very difficult situation during their previous encounter, but later, thanks to the timely arrival of the Thunder Lord, the 7th king had been forced to retreat. Now, this same person had come to deal with the Lord of the Primordial Wilderness. Lin Dong's eyes swept over the 5 other figures behind the 7th king. Each was surrounded by immense demonic energy, not quite on the same level as the 7th king, but still powerful enough to rival the peak experts who had survived a reincarnation tribulation. These 5 were all true kings of the alien demon race. 1 demon king and 5 true kings. Even Lin Dong couldn't help but narrow his eyes at the sight of this lineup. The demon prison was truly pulling out all the stops. The 7th king smirked coldly at Lin Dong, his eyes filled with scorn. "Last time, the Thunder Lord saved you. This time, who do you expect to come to your rescue? Those ancient lords? I'm afraid none of them will be able to escape now." Lin Dong chuckled softly, replying, "I'll save myself. With just you?" The 7th king sneered. Lin Dong nodded slightly, his expression unusually serious. He locked eyes with the 7th king and slowly said, "This time, I will kill you." The 7th king licked his lips, a cruel, bloodthirsty expression spreading across his face. His eyes grew colder as he stared at Lin Dong. "I'd love to say the same." Lin Dong smiled, his pitch-black eyes fixed on the 7th king. His vast primordial energy began to spread, causing the wind and thunder to stir, and the atmosphere became charged with overwhelming force. "Devouring heavenly corpse can handle a true king," Lin Dong said, flicking his sleeve. The devouring heavenly corpse appeared, and with its power, dealing with a true king wouldn't be too difficult. "I can handle one as well," Qingtan added. Although she hadn't yet reached the reincarnation stage, with the dark ancestral talisman and the dark sacred scythe, she possessed the power to fight a true king. "The other 3 are mine," Huan said with a slight smile, noticing Lin Dong's hesitation. "Don't worry, 3 true kings is nothing." Lin Dong pursed his lips and nodded. The alien demons were attacking in full force, and he could only deal with the 7th king. If the other 5 true kings were left unchecked, the island's defenses would soon be breached, and the alien demons would invade, potentially interfering with the Lord of the Primordial Wilderness. "Then, let's get to it." Lin Dong's eyes turned ice cold. The last time he had suffered at the hands of the 7th king, this time, he would make sure to settle the score. Lin Dong took a step forward, his palm clenched. Silver lightning erupted from his hand, roaring as it transformed into a thunderous dragon, charging directly at the 7th king. "Petty tricks," the 7th king sneered, flicking his finger. Demonic energy surged forth, transforming into a massive black demonic chain that quickly wrapped around the thunder dragon and crushed it with a brutal twist. "This time, I'll be the one to kill you." The 7th king's figure shot forward, his hand grabbing the air, and a demonic hand descended from the sky, crashing down toward Lin Dong. Lin Dong soared up into the heavens with a mighty leap, letting out a long cry. Brilliant purple-gold light erupted from his body, painting the entire sky in dazzling hues of purple and gold. Tens of thousands of purple-gold dragon patterns coiled around him. Boom! Lin Dong clenched his fist tightly and punched forward. Thousands of dragons roared as if shaking the very earth, and his punch tore through space, smashing the demonic hand to pieces. Boom! A terrifying wave of energy radiated from the collision, distorting the surrounding space. When Huan saw Lin Dong pull the seventh king into the fray, a cold glint flashed in her ice-blue eyes. In an instant, her delicate body moved, and slender fingers reached out. A wave of freezing air spread, quickly forming a massive, towering prison of profound ice that enveloped the three true kings. She swiftly entered the ice prison, and the terrifying chill began to spread, launching an extremely fierce offensive against the three true kings. Qing Ten also took action, swinging the dark sacred scythe in her hand, locking down one of the true kings. Faced with the fierce strikes of the scythe, the true king showed clear caution, and for a moment, the two were locked in a tense standoff. The devouring heavenly corpse acted decisively, charging forward recklessly. Despite the fierce attacks from the true king, it endured the onslaught with its devouring nature, relying on its terrifying physical strength to absorb the blows. Above Martial Gathering Island, the sky and the ground were caught in the midst of a fierce battle. The violent aura shot into the sky, and even from 1,000 miles away, one could still hear the echo of the battle clearly. In the highest reaches of the sky, Lin Dong stood facing the seventh king. Both of their gazes were filled with a fierce resolve. They knew that no matter how brutal the battle below, this place was the true battlefield. If they could defeat their opponent here, they would complete their crucial mission. This battle would be brutal. Above the nine heavens, a vast wave of primordial energy surged like an endless ocean, boundless and overwhelming. Lin Dong stood in the void, with wind and thunder surrounding him. His dark eyes gleamed with an astonishing sharpness as he locked his gaze on the seventh king. Behind the seventh king, a terrifying demonic aura began to surge. The seventh king was highly perceptive. Upon seeing Lin Dong's current stance, he immediately sensed the young man's strength. A look of surprise flashed across his eyes. This kid's cultivation speed is astonishing. In just a few short months, he's broken through from the revolution stage to the reincarnation stage. I was wondering why you had the courage to challenge me. It turns out you've entered the reincarnation stage. The seventh king sneered coldly. Lin Dong grinned in response, though his smile carried a hint of savagery. He didn't reply. Instead, his hands slowly clenched, and brilliant purple-golden light erupted from his body. It was as though his physique had grown stronger in an instant. Roar! A dragon's roar echoed through the heavens and earth. 10,000 purple-golden dragon patterns swirled around him, and as the dragons roared and surged, the overwhelming power seemed capable of shaking both heaven and earth. With Lin Dong's breakthrough into the reincarnation stage, the sky-transforming dragon art reached its true perfection. The power behind it was so immense that even Qing Ji would be left in awe. Lin Dong's body slowly expanded as his skin turned purple-golden, with faint dragon scales starting to form. In this moment, his physique bore a resemblance to the lord of the primordial wilderness. He reached out, clenching his hand, and the 10,000 purple-golden dragon patterns gathered in his palm. The light grew brighter and brighter until it took the form of a massive purple-golden dragon spear, over 10 feet long. The spear's shaft was covered in scales, and at the tip, the mouth of a giant dragon opened, with sharp dragon teeth protruding, exuding a chilling gleam. Its sharpness was so extreme that it could tear apart space itself. Lin Dong stood in the void, gripping the purple-golden dragon spear. He felt an almost limitless power within him, and he could not help but throw his head back and let out a long, thunderous roar. The roar resonated through the sky, and with it came the rumble of thunder. This was the first time Lin Dong had pushed his power to its limits after entering the reincarnation stage. The feeling was so overwhelming that it was as though a single punch could shatter the very sky. Lin Dong's purple-golden eyes blazed with battle intent. He stared fiercely at the seventh king, yearning for a full-throttle battle. Humph! The seventh king glanced at the battle-hungry Lin Dong and sneered coldly. Slowly, he lowered his arms, and dark demonic energy swirled around his hands. His arms began to stretch, becoming as dark as refined steel. His nails grew to about 3 feet long, resembling sharp swords. As his fingers lightly scraped together, a screeching sound pierced the air. "Want to fight me? Then you'll have to survive 2 more reincarnation tribulations," the seventh king said, his eyes flashing with coldness. With a flicker of his figure, he appeared behind Lin Dong like a ghost. His sharp nails tore through space like lightning, striking viciously toward Lin Dong's back. Swish! The sharp, demonic claws ripped through Lin Dong's body, but no blood appeared. Instead, the figure gradually faded, vanishing into thin air. The attack missed. The seventh king's pupils constricted slightly, and he immediately spun around. His razor-sharp nails shot out like swords. Clang! The purple-golden dragon spear, brimming with immense power, slammed into the sharp claws. Lin Dong gripped the dragon spear, the dragon scales on his skin shimmering with a dazzling glow. His gaze was cold as he stared at the seventh king, and with a flick of his arm, a burst of brilliant light erupted from the spear. The dragon spear trembled and transformed into countless spear shadows, relentlessly bombarding the seventh king's position. Each spear shadow possessed the terrifying power to slay a reincarnation stage expert. The seventh king, seeing the violent barrage of spear shadows descending upon him, felt a surge of demonic energy burst from his body. Then, the sinister demon emperor armor emerged. Clang! Clang! The furious spear shadows crashed into the demon emperor armor, causing the seventh king's body to be forced backward. The armor showed some signs of wear, faint marks appearing on its surface. "Your strength has indeed improved quite a bit." The seventh king observed the marks on his armor with a slight frown. During their last encounter, Lin Dong had only caused minimal damage to the demon emperor armor with his ultimate move. But now, Lin Dong's attacks were able to penetrate the armor, sending a shockwave through his body. Although the damage was negligible to him, it was still notable. Swish! Lin Dong didn't respond. His body flickered with silver light as he appeared directly above the seventh king. With a savage thrust, he aimed the dragon spear at the seventh king's crown. Clang! A black, armored arm shot up like a shield, blocking the spear. However, the immense power behind the strike forced the arm to sink slightly. Humph! A cold gleam flashed in the seventh king's eyes. His razor-sharp, sword-like nails arced in a vicious curve and suddenly slashed across Lin Dong's chest. Swish! The nails scraped across the dragon scales, sending sparks flying. At the same time, deep bloodstains appeared on Lin Dong's chest, with blood trickling down the cuts. The pain in his chest did not make Lin Dong flinch. Instead, his black eyes burned with a bloodthirsty gleam. His palms slid, and the liquid-like energy in his arms surged, transforming into a strange, glowing liquid. Ancient runes seemed to float within the liquid, radiating an eerie power. Upon seeing Lin Dong's liquid-like arms imbued with ancestral talisman energy, the seventh king's eyes flashed with realization. His body trembled as he transformed into a cloud of black smoke, retreating rapidly. He knew the power of the ancestral talismans and would not foolishly allow Lin Dong to strike him. "Think you can escape?" Lin Dong smirked coldly as he saw the seventh king retreat. The silver light on his liquid arms flared up, and his arms seemed to stretch into space, vanishing into thin air. The seventh king's pupils contracted as he saw Lin Dong's arms disappear into the void. Before he could react, the space before him warped, and 2 liquid-like hands shot out like lightning, slamming into his chest. Boom! A deep, resonating sound echoed as the seventh king was sent flying, his body surrounded by chaotic demonic energy. The demon emperor armor on his chest bore 2 deep palm marks. Space Ancestral Talisman? The seventh king's expression changed as he faced this strange attack, his voice growling with fury. "Congratulations, you got it right." Lin Dong's eyes gleamed coldly, showing no mercy as he unleashed another ancestral talisman strike. The force pierced through space and materialized from a different angle, striking at the seventh king with unpredictable precision. The attacks came from all directions, making it impossible for the seventh king to defend against them. Despite his powerful demon emperor armor, the seventh king was momentarily caught off guard by the bizarre nature of the attack. He could only rely on the armor's strong defense to block the incoming strikes. Meanwhile, fierce battles raged across the island below, but many kept a close eye on the upper-tier battlefield, fully aware that the outcome of the war would be decided by the confrontation between these two. When they saw Lin Dong pushing the seventh king to the disadvantage, they felt a surge of excitement mixed with shock. They could tell that the seventh king was no ordinary reincarnation stage expert. Yet, to their astonishment, Lin Dong still possessed the power to contend with him. Who would have thought that the young man who had once only fought on behalf of the Gu clan would evolve into such a monster in just a few short years? Boom. Another ancestral talisman punch tore through space and slammed into the seventh king's body. The terrifying power sent him retreating dozens of steps, with the ground itself trembling beneath his feet. The seventh king stomped his foot, stabilizing himself. He looked down at the fist marks on his demon emperor armor, and the anger on his face slowly began to dissipate. The seventh king raised his head, taking a deep breath. His demonic eyes gradually grew indifferent, but beneath that indifference, Lin Dong could still sense an overwhelming fury surging within him. Clearly, Lin Dong's relentless assault had truly enraged the seventh king. Although I really hate you, I just don't have time to play with scum like you right now. The violent rage in the seventh king's eyes finally erupted, and with a sudden step forward, a terrifying demonic aura swept through the air, causing the entire world to shudder in fear. The seventh king's gaze turned cold as he stared at Lin Dong. His hands moved swiftly, forming strange, intricate seals. Then, a mouthful of black blood spurted from his lips. The black blood wriggled, transforming into a black skeletal talisman. Within the skull, an unsettling wave of evil energy began to spread, an evil so intense it seemed to surpass the seventh king's own power. Roar! As the sinister energy spread, countless alien demons below suddenly threw their heads back and roared to the sky. Their cries were almost frenzied, and some even knelt, bowing before the black skeletal talisman in worship. Seeing this, Lin Dong's expression shifted slightly. The seventh king grinned menacingly at Lin Dong and said, "I originally planned to use this against the lord of the primordial wilderness, but since you're so eager to die, I'll deal with you first." The seventh king formed seals with his hands, gripping the skeletal talisman. Then, his body slowly knelt, releasing thick, viscous demonic energy from within. Eventually, above his head, a massive, shadowy figure began to materialize, stretching 1,000 feet into the sky. As the dark shadow appeared, the primordial energy in the surroundings seemed to flee in panic. The thick demonic aura spread, and a raspy voice slowly echoed from the seventh king's mouth.